Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally on day 5 of the 12 days of Christmas. And today we're going to make some signs. My nephew's building a house and he has a mill, so I was able to get some wood from him. And the first thing I'm doing here is starting with some basic rulers I got at Osco Drug. You can pretty much pick these up anywhere. I drew the angle that I wanted for Christmas trees and asked my husband to cut them. A crocodile may have worked, or a miter saw if you have one. Once I had a number of these, I did paint them in different colors for different projects in today's video. And remember, when you cut off the large section for the tree, you have the two smaller sections which can make a smaller tree once you put them together. So I just wood glued them. And then I had a piece of that wood from my nephew's house, sanded that down nice and smooth and rounded off the edges, and then took some of my watered down antiquing wax and just brushed that all over. I wanted this one to be a little bit darker. And then once I had that done, I took a rag and wiped that back, and I did do the sides all around. On each of the little Christmas tree pieces, those were a little bit rough, so I also used my finger sander, sanded that down, and then just used some typical Dollar Tree wood glue and glued those together. They're very lightweight. Then I went out to my yard and got some sticks. I have a hydrangea bush that worked perfect for this. I wanted to do some rather non-traditional Christmas colors. I like my neutrals, and I had some paints in my stash that were kind of a little bit on the blues and the sage greens, and then I mixed the two colors together to get a little bit of a different color for this first project, and set those aside just so that they could dry. While I was waiting for these to dry, I went back to the sign, and that was dry. I took some linen colored chalk paint and dry brushed over this a few times. I do want the brown showing through, but I don't want it completely brown, and I do want it more in the neutral tones. So once I had that dry brushed and dry, then I was able to go ahead with the next step. I do want this to be kind of a mixed media piece, so other than the wax and the paint, I now want to use a stencil. I have this really nice stencil set that I got from Amazon. It had, I think, 9 different Christmas sign stencils in a pack, and right here I just want some of the words from the top and from the bottom on this, and I'm just using a stiff bristled stencil brush and some black chalk paint just to get the words that I want. And I had to clean up a little bit of a mess that I overdid on one section. Then I was able to go ahead with my glue gun and just go ahead and glue on the different Christmas trees in the order that I wanted them. I had a little bit of fabric hot glue in this gun initially, but that will work fine as well. And then once I had these glued on, I took the little hydrangea sticks and put them on the bottom. And then I had these 2 little scrapbook pieces that I thought would go really well on here. And again, just give it a little bit more dimension, a little bit more of the mixed media feel for this piece. In keeping with the neutrals, rather than use white, I took that same linen colored chalk paint, and then I just used the brush that I had and just went ahead and added some snow here and there on the trees, and then underneath the trees to give them a little bit more definition, and a little on the snowman. So I think that this really just gave it exactly the look that I was going for. I love the colors. It's still more in the neutral tones. It's different than your traditional colors, and it just really goes with the theme that I was doing today for this Christmas sign. So I would love to know what you think of these colors, and if there is anything in particular you would like for me to do for Christmas this year. I have plenty more time to come up with something else. If you have some ideas, drop them in the comments. And then I am moving on to just a real little one. I had a little Christmas tree left over, and I really loved that blue color, and I thought I would make one for my tiered tray in my kitchen. So I took another piece of scrap wood, sanded all around, and smoothed that and made it rounded on the edges, and then just painted the background of that in a linen chalk paint to give that the vintage color that I love. Goes really well with the decor in my home. And I have this wonderful music tissue paper that I have no idea where I got it. I'm going to say Amazon because it was years ago that I picked it up. If I can find it, I will link it, but I think you're probably able to find tissue paper if you search either on Etsy or on Amazon. And I just used some Mod Podge to decoupage that on just as a background. So once I had that Mod Podged on, let that dry, which doesn't take long at all. Mod Podge, I love that about Mod Podge. It dries very, very quickly. Also can use a hair dryer or a heat gun if you have one to speed up the process, but literally in a couple, 15 minutes or whatever, usually that's all dry. Then once that was finished, I took the Christmas tree bluish colored one and I glued that on just with my hot glue gun and went out to my yard for a stick and just got a little piece of stick to add that on the bottom. And then I had in my stash from the dollar store, Dollar Tree near me, from the 4th of July. Maybe it was Hobby Lobby, but I think it was the dollar store. It was a sign from the 4th of July with a whole bunch of stars on it. And they were different sizes and I had picked them off and used the sign for something else. And so I thought this was the perfect embellishment just to put on the top of that little tree. Then I took some antiquing wax and I did go around this a couple of times. And then I actually put a little bit on the edges of the tree. And that is so simple. I think these would make such a sweet gift if you're looking for something easy to give neighbors or friends or teachers. Make it your own. But it's so simple to get a scrap wood or just a piece at the dollar store and add some embellishments, and they can use it as an ornament or, as I have done here, put it on a tiered tray. If you like vintage Christmas, make sure you don't miss my video coming out on the 16th of Third Thursday Thrift Flip, where I have another several vintage items. And I love these colors for my home, which are much more neutral, but I have a blue-gray in my kitchen, so I thought that this was a good complement to the grays that I had in there. So let me know what you think of these two Christmas tree items. And then that takes me on to my third one. Now, the last 3 Christmas trees I decided to paint with the linen paint and keep them incredibly neutral. And then what I did here was get a bigger board outside, sand that down, round off the edges. And now I'm using my watered down antiquing stain or antiquing wax to stain the entire board. And this one is going to be a little bit rustic, I guess. And then I left that, rather than dry brushing over it, I just left that, let it dry, and took some drop cloth, which I tore into little bits and pieces and just frayed the edges. And now I'm going to one of my favorite stencils I got on Amazon, a pack of, I think, 9 Christmas stencils last year, and I'm sure they still have them. And I'm just stenciling with a stiff brush the words at the bottom of the different trees. And then once I have those done, I'm just going to take my hot glue gun and I am going to just attach the 3 trees directly to that dried piece of wood. And once I have that done, again, I added some sticks, and then I took the piece of drop cloth that I had stenciled on and just glued that right over each of the trees. Sure, if you don't have this stencil, you could just simply take a marker and write directly onto the drop cloth or a piece of fabric, and that would work nicely enough. And then this is finished. If you don't want any kind of distressing, it was cute. You could certainly add a hanger to the back of that, and it looks very cute here. But I decided that I did want to highlight just a little bit of the edges of the wood just around the frame, and give that a little bit more of a 3D look. So I did take that down, add a little bit of the linen color paint that I had in the trees, just highlighted the edges of that. And for my purposes, I think that that was definitely more to my liking, and I hit the edges of the little trees with a little bit of the dark wax. Don't forget to check out the playlist and the hosts. Please hit subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you tomorrow for the next Christmas day. Take care.